So hi, welcome to Anchor Reviews. This is Tyler from Anchor Reviews on episode of After the Credits, and this is my review on Gladiator II. So Gladiator II, of course, is a sequel to the first movie from 2000, and it's about a man named Lucius, played by Paul Mescal, who was actually the kid from the first Gladiator movie, and the story in this one explains that he was snuck out of Rome and was trying to get away from being assassinated, and he decided to start a new life over in North Africa, but then, lo and behold, the Roman army comes and captures him after a battle, and he becomes a gladiator for a wealthy individual named Marcinus, played by Denzel Washington. And throughout the story, the main character wants revenge against General Chrysis, played by Pedro Pascal, who was responsible for the death of his wife. Now, I will say that the first Gladiator movie from 2000 is a very good movie. I have to say that that movie definitely deserved Best Picture because it was about the spectacle, and partially that's why it's such a really good movie, but at the same time, that whole emotional through line with Maximus, played by Russell Crowe, of course, who we see, flashbacks within this movie. But what made that first Gladiator movie so good is that you had that emotional through line with Russell Crowe's character trying to avenge the death of his wife and his son. And when he dies at the end, it's such a tear-jerking moment. It really does play with your heartstrings very well, especially Hans Zimmer's beautiful score at the end. It's just incredible, I would say, that ending. However, I can't say the same for Gladiator 2, at least in terms of that emotional through line. They have somewhat of that with the main character trying to avenge the death of his wife, and then later throughout the story, we also find out that he's also connected to Kai Neeson's character, who of course was in the first one, and she does come back for this one. And there is some of that in this one, but I just don't think it followed through with that, unlike the first one. But I will say, compared to the first Gladiator movie, this one also does deliver in terms of spectacle and size. And yeah, a lot has changed and a lot has progressed in terms of technology compared to the first Gladiator movie when that was made back in the day, compared to nowadays. And this one was troubled with various production problems. It really did go way over budget. It's been speculated that it cost between $225 million and $310 million. And part of that was that it was one of the many movies that was affected by the actor strike that happened last year. And another involved several extras being injured pretty badly in a stunt gone wrong. So I will say that Denzel Washington's character, at first you think, oh, he's kind of this character that's going to help the main character. He's kind of one of the good guys. But it turns out that he's pretty much a Machiavellian character who's just playing everyone because he just wants absolute power in ancient Rome. Also in this one, you do have not one but two corrupt emperors named Emperor Geta, played by Joseph Quinn, and Emperor Karsula, played by Fred Hechtler. But yeah, they definitely did a pretty good job of acting like unhinged psychos. I mean, one of them looked like a kabuki mime, and the other one was a mental case with way too much paranoia. And from what I've looked into, that these brothers, it was true that these two were brothers and they were co-emperors at one point, and they couldn't stand each other. At one point, they thought about splitting up the empire. One would rule in Rome, the other one would rule more towards the east. But I don't want to get bogged down with the history facts because this movie definitely is not very historically accurate, especially with the first one. But on the subject of historical accuracies and inaccuracies related to the director's previous movie, Napoleon, I want to issue an attraction because that movie definitely aged like milk. And that was because when I went to go see it, I was just having a fun time with the audience's reaction to it and just seeing the spectacle for it. So just keep that in mind with that. But also in a previous issue I did have with Napoleon, it's a lot more blatant in this one. So in this movie, it's fine that you have like diversity in this movie. The empire stretched out pretty far. They had different, people from different ethnic groups, and not just from Africa, but also in the Middle East. But at the same time, it was kind of weird to see black people in the Roman infantry, and more so in the members of the Senate as well. I highly doubt that there were non-white who served in the Roman Senate during the ancient Roman period. But one thing I felt like was a lot worse and a lot more distracting was this one scene where the CGI is really bad, involving these baboons fighting the gladiators in this one game. And the effects are just so bad, like everything from the details to the frame rate, it just looked worse than the Planet of the Apes effects from I take that back. The Planet of the Apes effects from 10 years ago, from like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, looked way better than this. It was that bad. In fact, the ape movies have really set the bar really high when it comes to details on ape characters and movies in the world of digital effects. So it was just embarrassingly bad, although I will admit that the effects for the most part in other parts of the movie are excellent. Now I know that just because there's one scene where there's like really bad visual effects doesn't mean that the rest of the movie has bad visual effects, because there's a lot of excellent ones in this one too. Although it was true that the Colosseum of course would be flooded at least for the first 100 or few hundred years of the gladiatorial games, I highly doubt they had sharks going around in there, and I have no idea if there was a rhino they ever fought in the Colosseum, but I will say it's still a better rhino than the one in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So as for Gladiator 2, it is a fun spectacle. It's enjoyable, definitely see on the big screen. However, I gotta say that the movie itself doesn't have that strong emotional through line as the first one did. And there were times where I felt the length of this movie at times. I mean, there was one part when I went to go to the bathroom, and then I went over and I was asking someone next to me, like, did I miss anything? And he was like, nah, nothing happened. So I'm like, all right, good. So, but I feel like there were moments throughout this movie that they could have cut without trying to spoil the movie. There were moments that I would have just cut here and there. But overall, I have to say that for the most part, Gladiator 2 is entertaining. I mean, it's definitely not on the same level as the first one, but I felt like this was a fairly enjoyable movie despite its faults. So as for Gladiator 2, I would give it about 3 stars out of 4. Now keep in mind, this is just a first impression. This doesn't mean that I'm going to have the same exact thoughts throughout the years. It may get worse through time, it may get better with time. Just keep that in mind. So anyway, this is Tyler from Anchor Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed this episode After the Credits on Anchor Reviews, and I hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.